So, by its very nature, wrestling is totally bonkers, right? If you were going to explain it to somebody right now who had no idea what pro wrestling was, they'd look at you like, that's really weird, and why does the person keep on running when they get Irish whipped? It is something we're never going to be able to figure out. But this is like a small scale. Even when you go to the super big scale at AEW or WWE or New Japan or name a major promotion, sometimes they do things which are totally crazy, and you watch it and you go, you know what? That's pretty badass. Now we're going to run the gambit here and go through a bunch of promotions, because in at number 10 is one of my favourite things that has happened in the last 15 years, I suppose, because it was a long old while ago now. I think it was actually 11 years ago, as I am talking. But it is Matt Hardy's Broken Universe, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now don't forget, when the whole Final Deletion thing came out in its most cinematic guise, it divided people right down the middle. And there's still a story out there, and one day somebody needs to ask John Cena this. There's this rumour that John Cena backstage at WWE would just have it on repeat. Show it to people over and over again, and some people would get it and some people wouldn't get it. There may be some people watching this video right now that are brand new fans. Go and just type in everything that Matt Hardy did around about 2015, 2016. Maybe it was earlier than that. My brain sometimes deceives me. But essentially, he becomes Broken Matt Hardy, and he's talking in a really strange way. He has a lake of reincarnation, he has a dilapidated boat, and he just lives in an even more fictional world than pro wrestling. Imagine pitching that. I would like to take the fictional world of pro wrestling and make it even more fictional. I'm going to have magical powers, and other people are going to change gimmicks mid-match, and we're going to make a bunch of in-references that some people will get and some people won't. It was absolutely tremendous. It was a wonderful reminder at a very needed time that sometimes you just have to think outside the box and do something different, because again, from 2001 until 2019, essentially, as good as TNA could be, WWE was just sitting on top of the heap. So when Matt Hardy decided to do this in TNA, it was just a reminder that WWE doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all, and this doesn't have to be on the end-all. You can do whatever you want, but it's still a dumb idea, okay? And goofy wrestling should be for life, as I said for time and time again, but I can also understand that if you are going to explain it out of context, these things will be totally nuts. I don't care. Broken Matt Hardy rules. And this kind of ties in as well, and we're getting more specific here, but I watched a clip, and this kind of what gave birth to this whole idea, was the Undertaker having lightning powers. It's in at number 9. Why does the Undertaker have lightning powers? WWE never explained this, and I've seen debates, I've had these debates. Was it that actually it was Mark Calloway, in his Undertaker persona, using his mind games to get in the head of his opponent, so it wasn't actually real lightning bolts like he's Harry Potter or something, and instead it was him, I don't know, paying off the production guy to just sort of hit a bunch of buttons and create this effect? Or did The Undertaker have magical powers? I mean, when he got killed by Yokozuna at the Royal Rumble in 1994, we did see him ascend upwards, I suppose, into a magical land. We do not know, but I just think it's great because now, if you're an old man, you watch it, like, that's absolutely preposterous. I was watching this when I was like 10. I was like, oh my gosh, The Undertaker can shoot lightning out of his hands. You can also apply it to the way he turned the lights on. We asked the same question. Was it some dude in the back controlling this, or were we meant to think that The Undertaker could actually turn the lights on with his hand? This is why that character was so good, because you could ask these questions. And when you are a kid and you'll just believe anything that you see on your TV, mostly because you're dumb, there's nothing better than this. So I love the lightning powers. I love the turning the lights on with the hands. I'm sure he's done some other stuff as well. He came out of a lot of coffins, especially when they were on fire. But once again, on paper, ludicrous. In execution, brilliant. Number 8, we go a bit wide again because it's the entire gimmick of Orange Cassidy. It's just, I know that some people don't get this because when I made a video years and years ago saying I think one day Orange Cassidy should be the AEW World Champion, people were like, no, Simon, it's so stupid. Why is he called Orange and why doesn't he care and why does he do his hand in his pockets? And I've said this before, and my comments went nuts. So bye-bye comments, but I have put this here for a very specific reason. It's exactly the same as The Undertaker. I don't mean specifically, I don't mean Orange Cassidy is as big as The Undertaker. What does it even matter? I am saying it's this idea of mind games. That's why Orange Cassidy does what he does. He comes across like I can't give a crap because he wants to trick his opponent. You've seen him do it in matches, so he'll do the tiny punches, he'll put the sunglasses on, he'll put his hands in the pockets, but as soon as you know he has to go, he hits the go button and he goes crazy. That's why he got over. He got over because he was so talented. So the fact that he would do all the character stuff and do all the creative stuff too, that made him stand out. There's a story out there, who the flub knows how true it is, that it was the Young Bucks that were pushing Tony Khan to sign Orange Cassidy, and he wasn't 100% sure. And then look, he became one of Tony Khan's go-to guys, especially during that international title reign, I believe it was. And it all came down to the fact that the whole character was like, I don't really want to wrestle, but if you're going to make me fine, I'll do what I can. Little kids dress up as Orange Cassidy, and I think that's where the Undertaker comparison comes in too. It just appealed to everybody, and I just think it's super duper smart. Like, you can be the tough guy, or you can be the comedy guy, I suppose, or you can be the smart guy. Orange Cassidy was a guy that didn't give a damn. And what's the character? There is no character. I just can't be bothered, but it works. I understand it doesn't work for everyone, but it must work to some degree. He's on TV, he's been on TV for half a decade, and he's made a lot of money. Number 7, let's go back to WrestleMania 36, the worst WrestleMania of all time. I can't watch it. Can't handle the pandemic, no atmosphere. Drew McIntyre winning that belt, and you hear this. It's just, I'm not interested. I'm going to move on. But it did give us the Boneyard match, which was the Undertaker's last ever match, let's not forget, and did deprive us of AJ Styles versus Undertaker in a ring. But actually, nobody cares because, again, when we sat down to watch, it's like, oh, wow. I don't know who pulled this out there, Rectum, but it was fantastic. In many ways, they owed Matt Hardy a salute because he had reimagined the cinematic match with the stuff we've already talked about. But let's not pretend this makes... How does this make sense? Professional wrestling is meant to be two guys go into a ring and they fight, and here they've gone to, what, I don't know, a lot? I don't even know what you'd call it. Like a scrapyard. And not only were The Undertaker and AJ Styles going to fight each other, AJ Styles was going to die after he got thrown to a graveyard. The Good Brothers got set on fire because they joined in. Essentially, this was 3 guys trying to insult a man that was about to retire, but somehow the man that was about to retire had superpowers and, like, skills, and he was able to get away, and he just drove off on his bike. Didn't tell anyone, just left AJ Styles' dead corpse, and then AJ Styles having to turn up on TV the following Monday night. This is why execution and pro wrestling will always have to go hand in hand, because you'd never get anyone to sit down and watch that if that's how you explained it to them. But if they were into it just a little bit, or they had been an old school Undertaker fan, they wanted to see his last match, it's got everything. It's over the top. There's a certain atmosphere to it. It's got an energy, as stupid as that sounds, but I've said it now. Let's use aura and cinematic quite literally. So yes, they pulled this one off, and I remember watching that on the end of night 1 of WrestleMania, day 1 during the pandemic. Thought, oh, thank goodness that we did do that, because again, that day finished awesomely. The second day finished with the Big Show coming and having a secret match. So I will always go back to the Boneyard. Number 6, let's head over to AEW and one of the matches they have done a few times, which I guess actually evolved into Anarchy in the Arena, but Stadium Stampede. Now, again, an idea that did come out of the pandemic, which is why we always have to give them a little bit of an asterisk, but let's take wrestling as if it was the realest thing you'd ever seen. Somebody was like, sure, you can fight around my stadium and do what you want. You want to jump off the goalpost? Well, I don't see a problem with that. It's just absolutely ludicrous. They fight backstage. They fight into offices. Think about the amount of criminal damage they would have caused. The amount of people that turned up to work once you were allowed to return to an office and would have been like, why is my bin in 2? Why is there alcohol everywhere? Why is there glass on the floor? It was simply designed for chaos, right? It was a Dr. Robotnik type match. If you told me that Sonic was getting involved, I totally believe you. And let's just take the Anarchy in the Arena and drag it in. It's just such a... It just shouldn't work on paper, which I've said a few times now. But the multiple camera angles going here, going there, trying to tell all these stories at once. But especially if we're talking about matches from 2025, given I am recording this in January 2026, the Anarchy in the Arena in 2025, I just thought was so much fun. And there's always in-jokes there too, which is also crazy. I'm going to try and murder you to win a match, but I have to have some comedy. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to go on. To me, it's a good reminder why, thank goodness, AEW does exist. Because when you have 2 companies going at it, it breeds creativity. This is pretty creative. It's also totally stupid. Number 5 was suggested by somebody else. They asked me not to name their name, but they won't, but I'm not going to take credit for it. And it's actually one of my favourite matches of all time. Definitely in my top 5. We go back to Bad Blood 1997, and it is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker in the first ever Hell in a Cell. Now, let's not forget, this Hell in a Cell was sold as exactly that. It's going to be the worst cage match ever. There's going to be blood, and it's pretty damn gruesome. Like, Shawn Michaels bleeds buckets during this, and the chair shot The Undertaker gives Shawn Michaels before we get to the finish. Oh, my days. That gets forgotten about because, of course, we were going to get a surprise, but that is where the stupidness or the insaneness does come into play, because even though you are about to watch one of the most gruesome matches from a WWE perspective, the lights are going to go out and The Undertaker's dead brother is going to return with his fake dad to cost you the match and ultimately cost you the WWE title. It is so fantastic. It's so wonderful. Why has Kane pretended to be dead for so long? Why has he been burned? Why has he chosen to come back now? It's fantastic. Like, it's so good. It's so professional wrestling. I mean, it's so soap opera, I suppose. But But the fact it comes after two long-term rivals have absolutely kicked the shit out of each other, it just makes me laugh. So how are we going to finish this match? But how are we going to make sure that Shawn Michaels walks away from this? Well, the Undertaker's dead brother, who he hasn't seen in 25 years, is going to walk to the ring. He's going to break off the door, which we were told is not possible. He's going to tombstone him, and Shawn Michaels is just going to pin him. Sound good? And it did sound good. It's one of, if not the best WWE debut of all time. I was so pumped for this match. I was about a fetus. I stuck downstairs to watch it, and I got in loads of trouble when my parents did find out, but I didn't care because I got to see the Kane debut live. But yes, that's a preposterous thing to do. It's a preposterous way to end a match. Number 4, I think, was intentionally meant to be stupid, but good grief, do we need to give props to Sami Zayn. WrestleMania 38, Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville from the Jackass crew. I think Kevin Owens summed this up the best. I can't remember if he said it in an interview or if it just sort of got out there on its own. But he was like, he doesn't think that anybody else would be able to pull it off like Sami Zayn did. And it just underlined that one of the best professional wrestlers in the world, because they can adapt to any situation, is Sami Zayn. And I would totally agree with that. Like, you have a bunch of people that are not trained wrestlers, Johnny Knoxville being the principal one amongst them, but Wee Man's in there, and I think Chris Pontius, I can't even remember now. I've not watched it for a while. But it ends essentially with giant cartoon traps trapping Sami Zayn, which is a dumb sentence, but I've said it now. And yet, it never felt dumb. It never felt silly, apart from the way it was meant to. That's the thing. Sometimes when you don't commit to something 100%, it feels a bit awkward. Like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. This could have been that, and actually it's the opposite. It is a well-worked, incredibly well-thought-out comedy match with sort of beats and, what's even the word I'm looking for, transitions, I suppose, that make the last joke funnier than that one. And Sami Zayn just plays the villain, right? He's a cartoon villain that continues to get got, and when you get to that finish and he loses, I think it's tremendous. I think it's so worked out. I agree with Kevin Owens. I don't think anybody else would have been able to do this, but I know that wrestling fans thought they were stupid because it's all over message boards today. You can't wipe that history. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, can't believe we're going to do Sami Zayn versus John Knoxville at WrestleMania. It'd be fun if it was on Raw or SmackDown, but not the show of shows. It was even better with that many people, and I was lucky to be there live, and I had a hoot. And do you know why wrestling exists? To have a hoot, so hoot away. Number 3, back to the general stipulations that we need to talk about more, which is the Raw Rumble. How did that ever become a thing? So here's the deal, guys. 30 of you are going to go to the ring. Somebody puts their hand up. Isn't that like a battle royal when we all start in the ring? Which is already weird, by the way. No. What we're going to do is you're going to pick numbers out of this tumbler, and whatever number that is, you will then enter in that order. So we'll get number 1, number 2, and there's going to be 2-minute intervals in between, right? So how do we win? You take the other person and you throw them over the top rope, right? Okay, why wouldn't we just pin somebody? Because we've decided you're going to throw them over the top rope, right? And what has to happen? Well, both feet have to hit the floor, which, by the way, wasn't a rule until Shawn Michaels' foot accidentally hit the floor when he did that thing with the bulldog. Because yes, it does touch. They were like, it has to be both feet. It is the stupidest idea, but good grief, in execution, it's the best. Nothing comes close. People like to get all excited about WrestleMania for understandable reasons, but the Royal Rumble is the creme de creme. I think in 2025, more people on Netflix watch the Royal Rumble than they did WrestleMania because it's fun and it leans directly into what wrestling should be. You can have surprises, both in the ring and the entrance, because you don't know who's going to be. I guess it's curiosity. The whole match is curiosity, and it kind of ties into gambling culture. Who's going to win? Who's going to be the underdog? Who's going to be the Iron Man or woman? What magical people are we going to see come down? Who's going to return to the company? I just think it's tremendous, but don't tell me it's not dumb. You get a world title match at our biggest show of the year because you were able to not be thrown over the top rope. That's what kids do. Number 2, I think WWE brought this on themselves. Once again, I didn't realize this until I've started talking. It's pandemic wrestling again. So I'll always give them a pass because they were thinking outside the box, but it's Backlash and the greatest match ever between Randy Orton and Edge. Now, Edge has come out and said, well, that was a dumb idea because we can't give you the greatest match ever, even more so if you tell us it has to be the greatest match ever. And then for whatever reason, WWE decided to make this more preposterous, although I understand the reasoning. Because there were going to be no fans, we were in the Performance Center, we added in sort of old school announcers and a weird crowd. Like, it was overdubbed as if we were going through some sort of time travel machine, I guess. And you got some funky camera angles. I want to call them funky, actually. But you got some camera angles that you would never seen, particularly in WWE, who were very sort of old school, or at least stuck in their ways about what they did like to do. And I remember hearing about this myself and people being like, oh, it's going to be really weird. I was like, it does sound weird. But actually, when you watch it, especially for the time, it's exactly what wrestling needed. And you didn't need to call it the greatest wrestling match of all time. You could have just called it Edge versus Randy Orton and then brought in all these things and people would have gone, oh, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to keep the atmosphere up. It's too long. It goes about 47 minutes. I would cut down 5 minutes. But actually, it's very, very well executed, even though it's utterly redonkulous. Because once again, if we are approaching wrestling as a sporting contest, who is pasting these things here? I think Howard Finkel turns up at one point, or somebody does. I'm like, why? Why are they here? What is the intention? But it works. And that's all that ever matters. So that's why sometimes when we do judge things too quickly, like thankfully this didn't happen, but there was the whole Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor feud that we were going to do when Bray Wyatt essentially was going to be Sister Abigail. Maybe it would have turned out fine. I know he turned up raw and he was wearing a veil over his head for some reason. But until you see these things, you never know. And that's what the greatest wrestling match of all time was all about. Number one is Kurt Angle drives a milk truck to the ring, sprays people with milk. If you wrote that on Reddit today, or you went on social media, and it never happened before, and you said Chad Gable, right, he's an all-American dude, I think Chad Gable should drive out there and spray milk at his enemies, because of course milk is good for your bones and a stereotypical drink that kids should have, in order that they do grow up healthy, and he's kind of put out there a good message. You would be laughed at the building. People would call you insane. You would get downvoted. You would lose all of your special tokens that you've built up over a while. You may be ousted from the wrestling community like so many people have been, and yet we did this. I understand it kind of got away with it more because we done the beer truck, and Kurt Angle's joke drink was the fact that he had some milk, but that doesn't matter. We still had to go out there and watch milk being sprayed at people. Now, it was ridiculous with the beer truck too, because it's just liquid, and Vince McMahon swimming in it for some reason, and Shane McMahon getting absolutely watered, but milk is absolutely worse, because milk is just a stupider drink. I don't know why. I don't make the rules. It goes back to commitment, because we all understand who Kurt Angle was, and because he just went in there and had that big smile on his face, and everybody sold it. I guess it would be like the list of Jericho, which also could have been in here. And I always go back to Xavier Woods, who set the template about how you sell this thing. When he got put on that list, he reacted like it was a list of death, and he was never going to be able to recover from this. And that's what people did with the milk truck as well. Go and pitch it to somebody today that's a brand new fan, a hardcore brand new fan on the internet that just spouts nonsense all the time. And they won't know about this because they pretend to watch old wrestling and they don't, which is totally fine, by the way. That's my whole point. You should let all fans do whatever they want to do. You're just as big a fan as anybody else, and say this is your idea for, well, I guess it wouldn't even be a Chad Gable, because Kurt Angle was at the tippity top. It'd be like Cody Rhodes doing it. It'd be like Cody Rhodes coming down and spraying people with milk, and then we'd all run to social media the next day, and I promise you, my friends, everybody would have a meltdown. This is good. This is confident stuff that you never know. Even when we do hear about something, you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. It could work out, and there's proof in the pudding. Now, make sure you drop me a comment below, because you're going to have loads of examples like this, and it's good to keep the old wrestling alive, especially because it could die one day. So hard to watch it. When you are down there, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Otherwise, click the video on the screen, which will be talking about some wrestling nonsense. Then you can go to grillermind.com/Simon, use code Simon to get money off. Ships worldwide, best supplements, that's why I use them. Patreon.com/Simon316 to support my watch-alongs and this YouTube channel in general. Simon316 if you want to come and say hello, and then it is Cameo, TikTok, and Pro Wrestling Tees to support me there as well. T-shirts and messages and all kinds of stuff. I appreciate you, my friends. Keep enjoying wrestling, because it is the least important of the most important things. Other way around, it is the most important of the least important things. I'll see you soon.